I'm Isaac, and I'm here to talk about some web bugs that I've found while I've been studying here at Lancaster. And so, before I tell you why the university security team knew I was here, let's go over some tangents and other bugs I've found. Not all of these are in Lancaster. Only one of these is in Lancaster's stuff. So let's start with some stuff about web image proxies. So if you see on a site like GitHub where you have a comment and you can have your own image in a URL, 9 times out of 10 the browser isn't directly requesting the image from the URL itself. So say we've got this image here on my domain. When it gets rendered, it doesn't it still appears in line. It obviously loads the image, but if you try and get the link from the image itself, it's an amazing image, but the actual link it goes to, it starts with camo.github user content, so it's not actually the original URL. So there's a couple of reasons for these. So it's proxying the image. There's a couple of reasons for these, and then one of these is, say my site was really old and didn't support HTTPS for whatever reason. GitHub still wants to load the image, since you've obviously requested it as a user, but the browser gets really annoyed if GitHub's nice and secure HTTPS site loads unsecured content. So GitHub proxies it and everything's HTTPS, so it's all happy. Next, if they've got, say one of GitHub's pages is really popular, an issue, they don't want to accidentally DDoS the original site, so if it's slow or whatever, and they don't want to cause unnecessary bandwidth, so they cache it on GitHub servers, since it's their load, they know they can deal with it already. And other sites are more aggressive than caching with GitHub, so they'll load it once and then never re-request the origin site, so they'll store a copy permanently. So they'll know that the image will never change, even if the source image changes. So for say a site hot links an image, and then the actual site that's hosting image, if they change it to be something else, without the user's knowledge, the image on GitHub site, or another site, won't change. And then, and then lastly, user privacy. So by proxying it through GitHub servers, they don't, since it's the browser that makes the request, GitHub gets the IP address and any cookies that are set, rather than the original image sites, who otherwise, would get all that stuff and be able to track you across multiple sites that all use that image or directly visiting. So, okay. So the first bug, it did image proxying, but it didn't. It was just upload the image and save it. So the image is just uploaded into an S3 bucket, just a file, just save the image. The URL then gets returned back to the browser, who then includes it in an edit page. So this is a content management site. So you can have a page with a gallery of images, and so when you add an image, it updates the whole thing. So you've got the list of images, and you just add it to the list. So but it's the whole URL it adds so it includes the the full URL, so it includes the Amazon AWS thing. But they only provide an upload form, so all the images go through AWS. So it made me a bit curious. Could I, instead of using their upload form, could I use a direct URL from another site? And then bypass serving the images from their infrastructure. So because I hadn't made that amazing test image that you saw earlier that I used with GitHub, I found one I liked, and from Wikimedia Commons, spinning globe GIF, and since there's the image is publicly accessible by URL, and I could it's easy to just put that in the thing and see if it works, and it did. There was no validation server side. It just inserted the image into the resulting web page. So I reported it, and it quickly got fixed for the reasons with image proxying, for user privacy mainly. So except they made a mistake in the fix. So they fixed it by blocking uploads that aren't the thing. But they made a mistake with the fix. Of course it doesn't render right. It's meant to be it's meant to be between the very end of the URL. So just after the com, they forgot a trailing slash. So normally with a URL, we've got there's three main parts. You've got the scheme, the domain, and the path name. So, importantly, the domain doesn't finish until the path name starts. So because they hadn't put, the start of the path name, that first slash in, the domain wasn't over. And since we can control the end, we can point it back to our domain. And it works this way with DNS too, since it's resolved from right to left. So with this, we can inject the actual a different domain, and then have our own image served instead, even though it still starts with the right string that they check for, but it doesn't go to their thing at all. So I'm lazy and didn't want to mess with DNS to set up the subdomain at the moment. I just wanted to use the same spinning earth that we saw before. So since Wikipedia didn't set up a subdomain pretending to be AWS, couldn't do that, right? Well, we don't need to use a subdomain, because there was one more thing that I it's not pretending to be AWS. But there's one more thing I left out on the domain path. You can have a username and password in there. And because of the authentication in the URL, the username, so we've got the scheme, we've got the authentication that happens before the domain, then we've got the domain and the path. Here, we can have the AWS site be the username, and then still connect. So the domain to authenticate to is still be Wikipedia, Wikipedia's images. So it's and Wikipedia helpfully ignores any basic authentication that you pass to the web server, and most do, I think, unless it actually expects it. So you can just pass it in, and So while it does have, so as well as my laziness here, it also has uses in phishing attacks, since you can if users only look at the very first bit, they don't realise that they're actually going to upload.wikimedia.org instead of users wouldn't navigate to AmazonAWS.com, but if they clicked a link, and most browsers actually have a warning when you directly navigate to one of these, but if you load it in an image, then browser knows that like it is already provided by the website, so it's not like the user typed in any credentials, so why prompt them? So it connects to AWS, and it got the same image from Wikipedia. So it didn't fully fix it. So they fixed it again, like by adding the trailing slash from the thing. And as a quick mention, a different site that uses an image proxy to protect user privacy in the same way. It uses a online image, like a free open source hosted image proxy called WSRV. And it's originally designed around manipulation and stuff, and there's loads of URL parameters that you can use. And it's got like comprehensive docs, documentations that have all the different URL parameters you can list. Except there was one parameter that wasn't documented since it was deprecated for removal. So they didn't want any new people using it, but it still worked. It's called error redirect. And if you specified that at the end of the URL, it will, if the original URL that was trying to be proxied wasn't found, it would send a 302 redirect, a HTTP 302 redirect to the URL that you specify, instead of serving 404 like it normally would. Now, I didn't realise this originally, but browsers, when fetching images, followed redirects. So you could just specify your actual URL in the redirect's target, and then have like a 404 page on the proxied image, and then the browser would it would like break the image proxy. It would go back. The browser would request the original URL, etc., etc. It'd like expose their IP and whatever. Okay, something slightly more interesting: student web hosting. So here at Lancaster, I found that I could apply and get for 500 megabytes of web space. So like on the Lancaster domain there. So that's my username, and then I get like a web root, and I can put whatever I want in there. But for like a personal web page. So and you can access it right now. Like it's public, and the URL on the screen goes to it. But since it's on the Lancaster domain, we actually get some SEO benefits. Like, Lancaster is a well-established university, and Google knows that, and I'm on the Lancaster domain, so I'm getting the same SEO that the university does. And I've tested this, it works. I think originally when I put the Pacademia page up, I had a redirect from my web space, and it and like originally that started getting traffic a lot faster than the brand new Pacademia domain itself. But the bug I reported could have been much more malicious than simply using or affecting Lancaster's SEO. So there's something else we can access with this: PHP. So we could, since PHP itself isn't a vulnerability, like I told the security team like about it just to make sure that they knew that we could use PHP. I said it's not a vulnerability, and that's fair. So since all I've said was like here's a page where I could just run PHP info, and like there's nothing else interesting on there, just like it didn't show any affected things. So instead I created a web page that ran exec, or like a system command on the web page, and then authenticated it as like a demo, and did it safely. And decided that, that was a vulnerability, being able to run system commands on the web server. They didn't like that. And it's fixed rather quickly. Then also, the very first site that we looked at also had a couple of XSSs. And an XSS or XSS or cross-site scripting is injecting and running JavaScript into other people's browsers in the context of the site, which isn't yours. And normally it's normally quite dangerous, since a lot of trust is in these is in the JavaScript context. You access authentication cookies, any private information on the page itself, and so it's not something. It's serious in a page. And my vector was something called a JavaScript URL or URI. It basically URL that starts with JavaScript and ends with the JavaScript you want to run, and it runs in the page itself if you click on it as a link. It's got some legitimate uses itself for users for bookmarklets. So there are bookmarks that you have pins to your favorites bar, and then modify the page itself. But since they're written or run by the user, they're trusted, and it's browser extensions light sort of thing. So here I was able to use the same page edit API as before to add a custom link to the page, and the link could just had a JavaScript URL, and any click on it would immediately execute all the JavaScript. And so it's actually a combination of two different bugs. The JavaScript URL being allowed on the page in the first place, it didn't validate can't be a JavaScript URL, and also an issue while adding it to the page. So it looked like this when it was add, from the link, and it looks fine, and it's even got target is _blank. Oh, hang on, it's got two underscores. So target __blank. So target _blank has a special meaning in a page where it will open the link in a new tab when you click on it. And normally this separates all the context from the original page and implicitly sets something called rel equals no opener, which prevents the opened page from having any access to the original, which prevents a lot of things. So if the opener is provided, sometimes you can mess with the original page in some way by either accessing the document itself or changing the page it's on. You can redirect and set the Windows location. But __blank, even though if you click it initially, it wouldn't look like anything happened, would it doesn't have the same it doesn't have the same protections. So on the parent page, or when you click the link with targeted _blank, it will initially open the first page, and then if you click a different link, it will open a different page in a new tab. With targeted _blank, it will first create a new it will create a new tab in the same way, and it sets a browsing context with the name __blank. But then when you click on the second link with it, it will replace the first link and move it. So it can control. So and then target __ blank can modify the parent like the original window in certain ways. And JavaScript URLs, it does in the context of the second link, but it can still modify the original, including access the page. So with that, like I modified the payload. This isn't too important. Basically, I was improving the payload as like for a better example that I could demonstrate impact and stuff. Yeah, so there's a way to make that XSS where you had to click on, so the user had to actually click on it to run automatically just by changing it from a link to an iframe, which like automatically loaded and then still ran it. So here it didn't validate that. So its iframe was meant for only YouTube videos, which like they provide a handy thing, and they wanted to make it all dynamic, so they had like a parameter for the YouTube video URL. But they forgot to verify that it was actually a YouTube video and not just any other website. So we've now got a zero-click XSS where you can visit the infected page, and then JavaScript runs, you could have your session token stolen, whatever. And that was fixed pretty quickly. Except it wasn't fully. So JavaScript got stripped from the payload when it was run as the original fix. And then, so just for fun, I appended another JavaScript to see what would happen. And that also got stripped. But I appended a third one, and it didn't get stripped. So, I honestly, I don't know why, but...
I did my JavaScript script.
I did. I think it did get a script originally.
How long would you have tried this for?
I probably would have stopped after 3 or 4. But I stopped after 3, since it worked. Except the front end properly replaces all of them, so I think I went a couple more. So it kept like stripping it on the front end, but not on the API. So using the API, you could set, you could still set a JavaScript URL in the iframe. And then lastly is another simple one. In some flavors of Markdown, you can include safe HTML. Although not just the elements are safe, though. So in like links, they're mostly safe, but like before, there was the rel equals opener, or rel equals no opener attribute. And if you could change that so it's rel from rel equals no opener to rel equals opener, you could like circumvent the original mechanism that removed it and then have access to the opener. So here the site would set rel equals no opener as a default, which is nice and safe. But if I manually set rel equals no opener on the link, so what should happen is the rel equals opener gets rewritten to rel equals no opener, and like that's all fine. But what actually happened is it only set it as a default, and the evil link had rel equals opener passed through, since it was just a default and didn't override it. So, yeah. And then also, the other title for this slide I was thinking of is Don't Do Sanitization in an Optional Step. So here, the user input Markdown is transformed to HTML. The HTML is sanitized, then sanitized HTML is added to the browser. But the So URLs in this were rewritten to be safe, to have a click-through link warning. So it redirected onto the page itself, and then there's like you are leaving this site. Do you want to like go there, accept, or go back? But this was done as part of the markdown. So markdown links were correctly rewritten, as you can see there. So it goes to proxy URL query is unsafe, but the original HTML link wasn't. So when that was transformed into HTML, the unsafe link was still unchanged, but the original markdown link wasn't. And then sanitization, it didn't affect anything else. So the effect of that was images aren't proxied, since this system was also used to proxy images, and HTML links in the HTML weren't made safe to click on without leaving the site instantly. Okay, that's it. I just want to thank everyone I reported these bugs to, since it was very receptive, and it's been very helpful for me learning and getting stuff fixed. Alright, thanks everyone. Does anyone have any questions?
Are you actually on PHP code?
Yeah. Just not everything. So they've fixed it by removing exec from working.
Have they removed other things like open?
Yes.
How long do you think? How long has this site been available, and no one's found, particularly PHP launching systems plans? It's a really obvious thing.
Yeah.
Are you shocked that nobody else? I don't know how long the site's been available.
It's been a while, I think. So it's something that you've got to go out of your way and find and request to get access to. So it's not got a massive attack surface in the same way. So there's only out of the thousands of university students and all the staff, there's only hundreds maybe that have accounts on here. But there's it's been available for a while, I think, for people to request. So it's quite shocking that it's.
You think some people might have been doing things with the system plans?
I wouldn't know. I don't know. Anyone else?
Couldn't you have recursively called the JavaScript if they keep removing it, just keep adding it in code, just a recursive call to add it if it's removed?
So the increasing numbers of JavaScript were manually added because we couldn't dynamically script the site, but also eventually it was properly fixed. So they didn't just add more replaces. They properly verified that it started with a YouTube. They properly verified that it was a YouTube URL when fixing it with the iframe, and verified that it didn't have a JavaScript scheme, or that it had a HTTPS scheme rather than didn't have a JavaScript scheme for links.
You guys, very nice. Not a second question, because it's not really where I'm coming from, I guess. I'm curious about your process. How do you sort of set yourself, what were you trying to achieve, or how did you go about sort of finding these probabilities? you could say something about, maybe it was just like noodling around and found them, or did a sort of mind or process that you're following?
So, some of the sites, especially the first couple with the image proxies, I used them myself and also like the discovery. So like with GitHub, like I did the same sort of thing. I processed there and like I copied the link and found that it wasn't the same as the original one. So I got curious at how it works and then dove deeper and deeper until I found, say, one of the things on a different site and then applied the knowledge I found. So like, oh, this one had an issue with image proxies. What about these other sites that I also use?
Okay, so you sort of follow the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes? Or